Hey guys, welcome back to the What a Lad podcast and the last episode of season 2. What a year it's been. So many absolute lads who have come on the podcast. Extremely grateful for anyone who has given up their time to come on and to anyone who has given up their time to listen to the podcast. Very much appreciated. But this episode is brought to you by Mac Finlayson. What a lad he is. And if you are keen to support the podcast, head over to whatalad.com and go get yourself some merch or coffee, or even get involved with the discounts to Pure Sport CBD or Mint Undies. Anyway, got an absolute lad for you this one, so let's get to it.
What a lad, what a lad, what a lad, what an absolute lad. What a lad, what a lad, what a lad, what an absolute lad.
What a lad. Wow, with it being the last episode of season 2, it's always super important to finish the year as strongly as possible. So I knew we needed an absolute lad, and thankfully I have got him. He is a Nelson legend who has gone on to become a star of the international stage for Ireland, and on his way he has been massive for sides including the Tasman Mako, the Chiefs and the New Zealand Māoris, and of course his current side, the Irish powerhouse Leinster. He's also had a few bigger setbacks than most along his way, which makes for a very inspiring story. And of course, he is one of the biggest lads you will ever meet. It is the great James Lowe. Welcome, mate.
Cheers for the introduction here, Jim. Jeepers, you make me sound a lot better than what I am.
Mate, you're
and
a
trust
legend.
me, after Artie, you can't get any higher than Artie. So I'm sorry in advance.
Mate, you are a legend, and you do have a pretty awesome story, which I have followed from. I think you were year 9. I remember coaching a Nelson College year 9 side against you, and mate, you were just running amok even back then.
Yeah, mate, that was a few moons ago, wasn't it? Bro, those were the days, man. I love Nelson College. Like whenever I think back to, like, I'm still so like attached to it. And that's like, it's such a good thing on one end of this, but then it's so annoying on the other. Like, I get into arguments with everyone, like, man, we would have smashed you at school. Like, you should have seen my team. And I'm just like, mate, I'm almost 30 playing international rugby, and I'm arguing with people saying my schoolboy team would have ripped yours up. So no, I'm very, very proud of where I come from, mate. And yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, and look at you now, mate, playing against the All Blacks for Ireland. Wow, what a week that must have been. Talk me through that one.
Yeah, mate, it's easily the pinnacle of my career so far. I never in a million years would have thought I'd experience the week that it was. Like, getting the opportunity to represent Ireland was amazing, but then to get on in front of the packed Aviva Stadium against, like 20 of my mates, like literally were standing across from me, like 20 dudes that I could tell you their parents' names, what school they went to, like how many times I've played against them. And then all of a sudden they were in my backyard doing the haka in front of me. I was listening to my home team's, national anthem and singing the Irish anthem. It was a bizarre week in so many ways, and something that I would never change.
Crazy, mate. What was it like facing the haka?
It was cool, man. Like, like, I've got such a huge respect and admiration for all those boys to have achieved what they've achieved, and then to stand in front of the haka is such an amazing feeling and thought. And Davey texted me before the game, and he was like, mate, don't laugh at me in the haka here. Like, don't, like, he's hiding in the back. He does what I used to do when I was with the Māori All Blacks. So I was in the back left. And no, it was surreal. And yeah, like I said, something I'll never forget.
And you must have been pretty happy with your performance out there on the field as well, especially that one moment, the key tackle. I know you want to talk about this one. Go on.
A lot's changed. I don't actually like talking about myself too much. That was me when I was bloody 20 years old. I couldn't shut up. But I've learned a lot along the way. But look, like that, I mean, it was a huge moment in the game, and people over here were giving me stick, like, why is he picked? The dude can't he can't tackle. Well, I can. It's just that I was introduced to a new system, and it just took me a little longer to adapt and figure it out. Once I figured it out, it was fine. And we were in the shit. Off the back of the scrum, I think Pete O'Mahony missed a tackle, a few offloads. All of a sudden, Davies threw a gaping hole, and I had to come from bloody Timbuktu to try and make a read. And sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong. And I got it right that time, but then Davey also threw one over my head that Will chipped and chased and scored, 10 minutes before that. It's the nature of the beast. And, mate, I was just happy to have an impact on 70 minutes. And we're able to, I think we went 2 scores ahead because of that, maybe. So, yeah, like it was surreal.
Huge play.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to, people be talking about something I've not generally talked about for, and people are like, finally, jeepers, this dude's on it. So it was nice. It was.
And what was it like going up against your good mate, Will Jordan? He's obviously given the rundown on how to defend you. What was it like going against him?
Mate, that little shit's talking, man. Mate, he didn't talk to me after the game. That's the first time I'd heard from him. Okay?
Really?
Was you tagging me in the... Mate, he wouldn't talk to me. I was just like, mate, it's a game of rugby. Like, you'll get a chance. Everyone has a sunny day. And, like, we were on that day, and, I remember playing for Tassie, and we'd signed this like kid, and I was actually a little bit annoyed because I wanted to play fullback that year, coming back from the Chiefs, and they're like, look, we got this kid. And I played the first game. He was injured, or he wasn't allowed. He's probably too young to be playing Mitre 10 at the time or something.
Yeah.
So I played the first game against Canterbury at 15, and then the second game I was sick, and he was starting at 15, and I watched it. I was like, man, this dude's good. It was against Manawa 2. I was like, holy shit, this guy. Okay, yeah. I'll stay in my lane and I'll jump back out on the wing. It's fine. But no, man, he's phenomenal. Like he's definitely a born and bred Cantab. You can tell by the way he talks and his mannerisms, and he's straight up and down. But he's a great lad outside of rugby. We have a lot of laughs. We used to pick on him. I'm sure everyone still picks on him because he's a man above his years in terms of his age, man. Like he's so mature. You forget that he's 22, maybe 23, not even. Like, no, he's got a big future. He definitely deserved to win that the breakthrough player of the year.
Yeah, he had a massive year, eh? But you've obviously got a great success rate against the All Blacks already. So, mate, what's the secret to beating them, you reckon?
Well, I might retire now, and I can say I'm the only one. No, like, throughout the week when we were watching video and we were talking amongst ourselves, from the start, there was confidence there in terms of our preparation and, the things we were talking about, the spaces we were seeing. We knew that if we all turned up, we could definitely put in a performance that we would be proud of. And I mean, teams have done that so many times where they've gone out and they've fired on all cylinders and they get to 60 minutes and then all of a sudden they'll score a couple of tries, and it's like, jeepers, how do we do this? Like, it happens 90% of the time. So we'd prep very, very well. Our forwards were getting off the line and hitting people. We were winning collisions. There was a sense of urgency and intensity in the contact. We didn't try and buy into Guzzler and Colsey and all this rubbing heads and, elbows on the ruck. We were trying to stay away from that because, I mean, that's all part and parcel with playing, the best team in the world. Like, they can do that because they deliver. And we knew that we just had to stick to our game plan, stick to what we knew. And we, like, when 80 minutes is up, if they've still beaten us, then fair play. But, we got it done on the day, and that was our sunny day. So, no, it was a good week at the office.
Did Retallick or any of the boys get hold of you?
No, fortunately not. No, Sammy was bloody squirting water on the sideline at me. Like, I was walking up and down. He was like, jeepers, mate, you've been eating burgers and all this sort of stuff. I was like, geez, mate, amazing to see you back. Like, you've come back from another neck problem, and it's awesome to see you. And he's just given out to me. So, no, there wasn't too much. There's a lot of mutual respect. I feel like some of my best mates are on, play for the ABs and have been for a long time. And I knew if I was caught at the bottom of a ruck and Guzzler was on top of me, I wasn't coming out without blood. So, mate, you accept it for what it is, and you carry on.
Yeah. And you mentioned about the last 20 minutes of the All Blacks always being so strong. Did you guys have an emphasis on that last 20 minutes in your preparation?
We didn't talk about it as much. It's just like, it always bloody happens, like they'll have 60 minutes of pound, like literally just going through phases and wearing teams out. And then in the last 20 minutes, their fitness shows. And, whether it's a couple of lucky breaks or you give the ball to a Rico or Will Jordan or a Severise or a Geordie Barrett or a Bowden Barrett, and they just do their thing. But we knew if we stayed in it and were physical for 80 minutes with an intensity with the crowd, we could give it a good shot. And we did, we won that day. But like I said, we got 3 tests against the ABs coming up next year.
That's
And
going to be.
I know how difficult it's going to be, those 3 tests. So we're not getting ahead of ourselves. Like if we can put in performances, 3 awesome performances, like we'll be very happy with that, because we know how difficult New Zealand are to beat.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be an awesome series. Everyone will be looking forward to that one now, especially after they got well and truly beaten over there by you guys. And your family will be looking forward to seeing you as well, I bet.
Yeah, mate. It'll be 2 years without seeing my family, man. And I'm a homeboy, man. Like I miss Nelson bloody so much, man. Like, and it's, I know nothing's going to change. I know, the same people are still going to be there. Like, but I miss it, man. Like I miss it so much. And it's just a shame that, like, what you sign up for when you go and play overseas. You understand that.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's been taken away, that I can't go home, that we can't go home, like that's the thing that really sucks. But everyone's happy and healthy at home at the moment. So we're grand. I look forward to getting home for a bit. Yeah.
And what about over there? Is everyone healthy over there? You guys, how's your COVID situation?
Yeah, she's a bit of a shit show at the moment. It's running rampant. So many people are catching COVID. Like our bubble was pretty tight, and boys were abiding by government guidelines, but they weren't pinting up every weekend and going into pubs and clubs, and mixing mingling as much with their friends. But at the moment, there's a few cases in at Leinster, and man, like it's literally like day by day. We've only been in once this week. We've got a big European Cup fixture coming up on Friday away in France, and like we don't, at the moment the game's on, but even they've got COVID in their camp. Man, it's crazy, but you get on with it, and if we can send 23 boys over there, they're going to do their best to come back with some points, hopefully. Yeah.
True, that's crazy.
It's mental. Like even the boys who have it, like all of them are fine. A little bit phlegmy and snotty nose, a little bit of a sore throat, but no one's had anything bar that. So yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is.
So what's the protocol for those guys? Are they out for 2 weeks?
Don't know. So the day that they test positive, that'll be their first day. So it's 10 days from there. I think it's like on the last 3 days, you have to have negative PCR tests before you can, leave your quarantine. But then even on top of that, like you can't then throw someone into a professional match as well, straight after that. You have to, you want to do a week of training pretty much before you even consider going toe to toe with someone trying to take your head off. So, mate, it's going to be a funny old Christmas, but I'm happy and healthy at the moment, and that's all I can ask for.
Mate, so you'll be on the plane over there for sure, captain.
No, I will not be captain. Although I did throw that out. I've got a good relationship with the coaching staff. I'm like, lads, I can play 10, I can be captain, I can kick. But no, fortunately, there's still a few old heads around, and our 10s haven't fallen over. But I'll be on the plane at this stage for sure.
One thing New Zealand listeners will be struggling to comprehend is that you guys are still playing over this Christmas period over there. It's always a pretty full-on time of the year for code.
Mate, like you've been over here, like sports and Christmas just shouldn't mix. Like it shouldn't. Like Christmas is a time for your family. Christmas is a time for, friends and, being with loved ones. Man, like I was actually explaining this. Literally all I can do right now is go for like walks with my dog, and I bumped into my neighbor on the way, and I was like, look, like we're genuinely the zoo. Like we're the animals in the zoo. We are literally the entertainment for every other person who gets the week or 2 weeks off. Like it's stupid, man. Like it really, really annoys me that you do play over Christmas. And also they're the biggest games. So like we're playing against Munster away down in Thomond. One of the last times I was there, I got red carded for taking someone out in the air. Like they hate Leinster and they hate me. And we're playing them on the 26th. So, oh man, like it's just a bloodbath. But we play New Year's Day as well. Like how stupid is this? Like, but hey, I don't make the rules. I'll just turn up when I'm told to.
And Leinster are looking as strong as ever, mate. They're such a powerhouse of European rugby over there. Like, what is it about them that make them so good? Just so consistent.
Yeah. Like it's funny over here. Like rugby isn't the main sport in Ireland. Like they've got the GAA, so the GAR and hurling, and that there is stereotypically played by like everyone outside of pretty much South Dublin. Like South Dublin is a very niche rugby-esque sort of place. Like a lot of private schools where the boys play rugby, and Dublin is like almost like the epicenter of a lot of the very, very good rugby players that come out of Ireland. And that's a very, very big generalization. There's amazing players that come from all the other counties, don't get me wrong, but a lot of those other counties have to tussle with, boys going to hurling and soccer. But here, it's a lot of the boys end up pursuing rugby. So almost 10 of the current Irish internationals that went to one school, and those boys also would be 5 years apart. Like a lot of them played together in school. So fortunately with Leinster, those boys don't want to leave. They don't have to leave. Their families are here. Their grandparents played for Leinster. Their parents supported Leinster. Their season ticket holders. So automatically you have a culture of people who are so passionate about Leinster rugby. And that there's obviously like throughout the years become such a strong thing that Leinster use. And then you've got old heads who have been around for years who like, that's the hardest thing to create in a club, is a sense of like purpose or identity or a want to represent like the province because of how proud you are of the province. And like that's how literally I felt with Tassie. Like I absolutely love Tassie, and I would, if anyone ever like Jamo talking about the Nackies, like you going to the Nackie, I'm still pissed off about that. Like stuff like I'm still bitter about that, but that's how the boys feel about Leinster over here. So you've got the hardest piece of the jigsaw already there and embedded in so many of the boys, that on top of that, you then get boys who want to work hard. You've got boys who want to perform, who are striving to perform. And then, on top of that, you get obviously sponsorships. So then like, it's just a conveyor belt at the moment of so many good things happening at one time. And I genuinely don't see Leinster fading at all the next 10 years. I just can't get, because I've seen it's run like an army. Like it genuinely is. You see kids like catch pass, like 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And then like kids are being moved schools to try and get better because they know, their parents know they'll have a better opportunity at rugby. It's just like, jeepers, man, it's a different world. But, we're benefactors. Unfortunately, I landed on my feet here. Like I had no idea about this. Goody told me about, it's an amazing place to go pinting. Like you're gonna love the nightlife. And like now I'm so lucky to have ended up in Dublin. Like I can't begin to express how fortunate I am, man. Like it's been an amazing journey.
Oh, that's so cool to hear. And I'd love to see some crossover games between teams like Leinster and the Crusaders, etc. It'd be so cool to see how these teams compare against each other, eh?
Yeah, like it's like that's, I think they're doing that that Club World Cup or something's like they're trying to they're trying to put it in a schedule, man, and that would be awesome. Like if we had the chance of playing against Crusaders, it's so funny because we watch so much of the Crusaders, like in our like team meetings. Our head coach, man, he's so obsessed with rugby in a good way, and that's what you need from a head coach for sure. And like we'll be watching Richie Mwanga or like Mitch Drummond like throwing like literally 15-meter flat passes from the base of a scrum to Rich, and then Davey coming short and Lester out the back, and it's just like, jeepers, this is what we should do, and then like would watch it. It's like, okay, how would we do this then if they have this platform and they've got a 9 who can throw that, and they've got a freak at 10 who can goose step out of tackles, like it's an amazing thing to think about. But if it happens, I'd love that to happen. Yeah.
And what's it been like having the South Africans in the comp over there now?
Well, it hasn't been like, we haven't played too many because of Corona, man. Like we played against 2 of the South African teams at the start of this season, but we didn't play against them last season. And then the year before, we played against the Cheetahs and the Kings, and like they're not the 2 powerhouses, so we haven't had to play against them too much. But man, they're all big bastards. Eh? They are just like, they're so big. So it's actually a good challenge, because it is something different, man, because they've got some serious athletes out wide, and then you've got these big heifers just running lines from hell, and you just it's fun, man. But we haven't had the opportunity to play them too much.
No, it's all ahead of you. Anyway, mate, before we get too far into it, I know you do have an unreal story as a young fella, so looking forward to hearing this. But give us a rundown on your upbringing. You've given us a little bit around your times at Nelson, how much you loved it, but fill us in with what you were like as a kid.
Yeah, so I grew up in Stoke, so it's a little suburb in Nelson. I was a very full-on kid. I was into everything. I played every sport under the sun. I didn't think before I spoke, and it got me in a lot of trouble. But man, I just love sport, and that was a serious like outlet for me. I went to Broad Green, and one of my teachers thought I had ADHD because I had just way too much energy. Like it's like, that was just literally me in a nutshell. But I loved sport. I was mad into cricket and basketball, athletics, touch, everything. Like, to me, hindsight, I probably shouldn't have played too much, because I got stuck into it because I knew it would get me out of school. Like, I'd do the bare minimum, knowing, like, I always knew that I was going to pass school, like that there was, but I just never applied myself. And man, if I could go back, like, I definitely would have, man, I would change. I would have turned up for class a lot more, and I would have listened a lot more. But yeah, that was literally me in a nutshell, man. I just talked too much, and I was always up and into everything. But yeah, I was never a troubled kid, or I had a very, very normal background, just a working class family, just very normal upbringing. So yeah, that was pretty much me, man.
And you did all these sports, but you were very good at all these sports too, weren't you? You're a bit of a freak.
Yeah. I just loved sport, man. Like, it was a way I could be competitive, and unfortunately that probably got the better of me a lot of the time, where I'd get so frustrated at myself, or I actually used to cry a lot as a kid, like, especially when I lost. Like, I used to be that kid. Yeah. Like, I used to literally be that kid because I was so competitive, and it took me a long time, until I was in my teens, to really figure it out, when to really turn it on and be competitive and when not to, because I knew that it was affecting like relationships with people, because everyone's like, man, I don't want to be around this kid. This kid's way too intense, like, all the time. But yeah, I just love sport and everything. Like I said, man, volleyball, basketball, cricket. I remember Stephen Adams pretty much dunked on me once, man, called me too small. I remember bowling against like Tom Latham, man, doing athletics. Tom Walsh was my age in athletics. So man, he was like dominating me in shot put, and I'm just like, yeah, like, I have all, it's funny, the people are like, they won't remember me, but now I remember, like, I was like, jeepers, man, like, I played against all these freak high achieving New Zealand athletes. But yeah, man, like, I loved sport. I absolutely adored it. Yeah.
And then obviously the big setback in your childhood growing up was when you were diagnosed with juvenile arthritis, was it? About 14 years old?
Yeah. Would have been about 13, 14. So I was actually, I was playing cricket at the time. I just made the first 11. So I would have been the end of my third form year.
Holy heck.
And yeah, like, I was always bigger than everyone. So it was always, that always helps when you're playing sport at a young age. But I was literally I was down at the nets, and I was bowling, and I kept getting these rashes. And I didn't understand what it was at the time. My parents are telling me, just shower more, you stink, like all that sort of thing. And I I don't know, like it was just a snowball effect. And then over the summer, it just developed like I was just so fatigued all the time, like which was very uncharacteristic for me, especially over the summer, man. I'd always be stuck in going to playing different sports and all that. And I literally could barely get out of bed. You know, was at the hospital doing heaps of tests. People didn't really know what was going on. And 6-7 months later of like all this just literally ticking on in the background. Like I was still going to school, but I couldn't play sport at the time. And then I was finally diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. So it was literally my body was kind of attacking itself. Like it was just like I was just overworked pretty much. And that was my own fault. Not that I knew at the time. And then, so I was in hospital for 2 or 3 days while they did tests and gave me different pretty much antibiotics and trying to see what would work. Because arthritis is a very broad disease in a lot of ways where like my arthritis was a very, very unique where every day I'd wake up and something else would be sore. So the main things that were sore for me were my fingers, my wrists, my knees, and a little bit of my hips. So some days like my knee would be swollen and like I hadn't walked the day before and this thing would be swollen. And then I'd wake up the next day, my knee would be fine and I couldn't, pick up a knife and fork. Like it was just such a weird, like bizarre disease. And they finally found like the right medication. Like I was doing blood tests and they were trying to figure out all these different levels and all that. And they finally got me onto a medication, which was fortunately subsidized by the government at the time. So we were paying like a tenner a week when if it wasn't subsidized, it was going to be $2,500 a week. So fortunately, thank you to the New Zealand health system for that. And yeah, that was literally my miracle pill. But this year went on for a year and a half. And the weird thing about it as well is that it would come and go for like 3 months. So I'd have 3 months where it'd be absolutely fine. Like you wouldn't be able to tell a thing. Like I'd be back to normal. And then I'd have 3 months on the sideline where like, I had parents and friends and everyone was like, mate, what's wrong with you? I'm like, dude, I just don't have the energy. I don't really want to be here, and it was very, it really sucked for my parents because there wasn't that much information about it. And like, there still probably isn't. Like, I'm just fortunate enough to have lived through it and got out the other side. And now when people with kids ask me, I'm like, honestly, it's a roller coaster of stuff. You just have to find what works for you. Unfortunately, we found a medication. The problem with the medication though was it was like a suppressant. So it stopped. So my body was pretty much attacking itself. So I took these, it was actually an injection where it came in like a packet and there was a powder in one vial, liquid in another, and then the top of a needle, a syringe. And I used to have to like make the syringe, like suck the water out of the vial, put it into the other, like shake up the vial, then like extract it back out and then inject myself. But yeah, the problem with that was it stopped my immune system from working. So I'd get sick very easy then. So and then I was taking more pills on top of that to then help. Man, it was just like a spiraling effect. But, I only felt that up until like maybe I was 16. And then I'd say I was pretty much perfect, man. Like I had no problems after that. I would have days where I would be a little bit sore, like kind of like after a game, you got the bangs and bruises and that. It kind of felt like that, but it would be on like a Tuesday or something. It'd be like a random day of the week. But, like I came out of that and I'm grand now, man. Like I don't have to take any medication, but I was just very, very lucky. Nelson actually had the right people there, the right doctors there. Because some people, like, say if I lived in Christchurch, there's not a specific doctor there who could treat or knew, what was wrong with me. So they might have had to have travelled, or I was just very lucky to have, the right person 20 minutes up the road. So, man, I'm very, very grateful to have come out the other end of that. Yeah,
mate, that's crazy. So it was about a 3-year period where you're just bedridden for sort of 3 months on and just sort of waking up in the morning not knowing whether you're going to be sweet or whether you're going to be sore.
Yeah, pretty much. My sister actually, would have been on a flip phone. She's actually got a video of me and I'm literally skin and bones and I'm using a walker to go to the toilet, and she's cracking up laughing in the background like this pixelated video on a like a Nokia flip top or something. She still has that video, but I might let that surface one day, but man, it's a bleak looking, skinny little moldy boy from Stoke, man. Like, it wasn't pretty.
And I think I saw a photo of you with, might have been some of the Hurricane boys. Did you fly up to the Hurricanes one time and get some photos
Yeah,
with them? Because you were
I
skinny
did.
as then too.
Yeah, I was, man. Like, I was so skinny, but so I would have been 18. There was a few things going on then. So I just played schools, like New Zealand schoolboys.
Mm.
The Arthritis New Zealand was based in Wellington, so I actually got flown up by them to go and talk to them and, say thank you pretty much for them. Like, it was kind of like a twofold thing. It was awesome for them to have a kid who'd gone through it. So it was a bit of them, and then I was also talking, like, there'd been a little bit of chat about going to Wellington. Like, I'm talking like minuscule stuff at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a photo of myself, Victor Vito, Namia Tialada, because he had a form of arthritis. So that there was also a little connection there. And Thrushy, was it Jeremy Thrush?
Maybe that's why you probably look skinny. You're up against three massive humans.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very big boys. I actually remember seeing Lima there as well. Yeah, little fresh-faced Lima at training. It was at their captain's run, man.
Yeah.
And he was still giving me shit for running rings around me on Nelson College front field, man, playing against Wellington College the year before. So that's a long time ago now, man. That would have been jeepers 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah. But once you did come right, you found your form again pretty quickly on the rugby field anyway, and you started dominating the New Zealand schoolboy scene. Talk me through your years there.
Yeah, that was cool, man. Like, those were the days, man. Like, that was a lot of fun, that tournament. We played against Tonga and Australia for the New Zealand schoolboys. We played up in St. Peter's in Cambridge, and then we were down in Otago boys in Dunedin. And like, TJ was the captain. Big Offa was in the front row. Not too many other big names. Marty McKenzie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you had all these, like a lot of freaks running around. That was a lot of fun, man, and a huge learning curve. But yeah, it was kind of after that, man, I was still probably too smart in my own head. I thought too much of myself probably a bit back then. And I got a bit of a realization when I actually got to Tassie, that, man, I'm not as good as what I thought I was anyway, because when you get up against the big boys who've been doing it for years, they're the ones who really put me in my place, I think.
Yeah. How did you find that? How did you find your first year with Tassie? Am I right in saying KK was your coach and you and him had a few good times together?
I love KK, man. Like, KK's my boy, and I'd defend him till the cows come home. But man, like, I was fresh out of school. Like, I was New Zealand schools. I thought I was the man. Like, I was still in Nelson. Like, I knew everyone. I was going out on the piss every weekend, like as you do as an 18-year-old. But
yeah,
I just thought I was the man at the time. Man, my second game was actually a shield challenge against you boys, where Bodie came back, and you were on the bench, I think, that day. Bodie came back and
you got a good memory,
30 odd points or something. Yeah, 30 odd points, and it was man. It was the end of the first half, and Hayden Cripps gave me a ball off his hip, and I went through a gap. And then I tried to throw like a 10-meter like skip ball, like if it had gone to hand, Peter Beetham would have scored, but it like drifted forward or something and went into half time. We're only down by like 7 or 10, and we, like Bodie was running an absolute clinic, and we sit down. We're all pretty pumped. Like, yeah, we're definitely in this. And then KK comes storming in, and he's like, "Who the fuck threw that?" And I was just through that. I was just like, yeah, that was me. And I like put my hand up and goes, "Do you think you're going to win the game for us today?" What? And just like went through me for like a good 10 seconds. And then like the place went quiet. And he's like, "Okay, split." And then like backs and forwards went the other way. And I'm like shell shocked. I'm like a possum in the headlights. Like I've never experienced being yelled at before. And I was like, "Jeepers, I made the break. I threw a bad pass. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best." And then afterwards, like Joey came up to me, he's like, mate, don't fucking worry about that old bastard. And like Campbell Johnson, even, like I'd barely spoken to him. He was like an absolute legend. All the boys loved him. And I didn't even think he knew who I was. He was like, mate, that's bullshit. Don't worry about that. Like I had from that experience, you know, like that was my first experience of professional rugby. And I'm just like, oh my God, is this what it's like? But man, like it took me, like I could go on about KK for so long, but like I think the biggest learning, and it took me years to make, man. Like it would have taken me like 4 years, I reckon, to really figure it out. To figure not just rugby out, but like in terms of being a person. Like a good analogy was like I didn't like playing in the sandpit with other people, and that there was probably me I wanted to always be in like the limelight. I wanted the names in the paper. I wanted to be front page. I wanted to score the try. I wanted like that's kind of how it was. And it wasn't until I figured that out, and it took me 2 years a year of Super Rugby to really figure it out. I'm like, man, the team's going to be better if I'm better for the team. So I had to like really grow as a person and as a player, and become, you know, be a lot more open to other people around me to really learn as a person and be a better rugby player. I think my relationships with people in the team really started to become a lot stronger, and I was a lot more accepted. You know, I was a little bit more vulnerable. Like I'd actually talk to DG, David Galbraith, a lot about it, and he's like, mate, why is your like play so inconsistent? I was like, I don't know, man. I think I put enough, like too much pressure on myself. You know, I thought I was, you know, 2-3 years of playing professional footy, I thought I was going to be an All Black, like all this sort of stuff, you know. And, you know, we stripped it back and realized I was a bit of a douchebag and thought too highly of myself. And I was reading, like I deleted all the, you know, like news apps and all that sort of stuff. Like I just didn't, once I stopped focusing on specifically on me, I found, you know, as a person, as a player, I got so much better. But yeah, it took me probably a bit too long to figure that out, man. Like I wish I'd known that a bit earlier.
Hey, that's powerful stuff. Love that. But one thing I did want to talk to you about, when you were younger, you missed out on the New Zealand 20s, and you were probably the star of the trials from all accounts. I've spoken to a lot of guys who trialled in that for that side. I think I've read an article that Jeff Wilson was the wing selector, and he even had you as the top winger, but you still missed out on that side. So is there any more to that?
I don't know, man. Like like that's such an interesting one. I probably, in terms of my attitude, that was probably something that actually still stuck out. I was probably still very immature at that age, but I still like, man, like I'm still baffled that I didn't make that team, man. Like even like that's actually something that really kind of frustrates me still. To be honest, like, because I felt at the time, you know, I was playing 15, 13 wing. Like I was literally like wherever you kind of needed me, like that's where I'd go, like, you know. And yeah, like I missed out on that. And like even I remember sitting down with Jeff Wilson, like you said, and like he's just like, mate, like I had you on my team. I don't know like what went wrong or whatever. And you know, like everyone has their reasons, but that was just such a frustrating time for me, and probably the start of a journey of why has this happened, because maybe I was probably still a little bit immature and they decided to go down a different route. It's no one's fault apart from myself. Like probably didn't put my best foot forward, and you know, that's how I see it now. It's funny, I was actually listening to Artie's yours and Artie's podcast just before, and we were actually, it would have been that year, because I think he's a year or two younger than me, so that was his first year in the sevens, but we actually both got picked to like after the Queenstown sevens. He won't remember this, but like it was just like literally me and him, and then like I actually chose to go with 20s because 20 was like, no, we want you to stay with us. So it was like a fucking shambles, man. But yeah, it's all these weird things I remember when I think back, man.
So how did you handle that setback from missing out on that side? Did you handle it well, or?
Yeah, probably. I actually remember, like, I had a few sit downs with people, you know, coaches and stuff, and Shane was actually doing a bit of my contracts at the time, just because I had no bloody idea, and he was advising me on a few different things. He actually helped me a lot along the way. He's a very good person, and he always had my best interests. And I remember sitting down with him once, and he's like, look, like, are you doing everything in your power to make sure that you give this the best opportunity that you can? And that's pretty much like he's probably put it a different way, but that was pretty much the gist of the conversation we had. And I was like, man, I don't think I am. I started training a lot with Jason Hilkemer at the time. What I really needed to do to start pushing myself and getting the best out of everything. And then that year playing for Tasman, after the disappointment of, missing out on 20s, to then I played it like really well that season, and when Super Rugby teams came calling, all 5 Super Rugby teams were kind of like toing and froing. A funny thing about that, Jules hadn't signed at the time, and it was when Jules was literally at the peak of his powers. Yeah. So he was at the Hurricanes, and he was kind of holding off on not signing and all this thing. And me being a left winger, like there's only a few spots, every Super Rugby team's looking for every year.
Yeah.
So everyone was trying to sign Jules, but then when Jules said that he was staying at the Hurricanes, like the 4 other provinces were pretty much ringing, asking if I'd go down for a viewing. So, man, like those bloody Sarvere boys, they're running the cutter at the moment. Yeah.
How did you come to the decision to go to the Chiefs?
So I sat down and I talked with Rang at the time. He was Tassie coach. He was the backs coach. We got a funny relationship as well. He probably thought I was very immature. That's probably why. And I was like, look, like these teams here, I know that you've probably got a biased opinion, but what do you think? And he was like, look, if I had the choice, I think the Chiefs right now are the best club. And they'd just gone back to back. Dave Rennie was at the peak of his powers. He had Wayne Smith, Andrew Strawbridge, Tom Coventry, like they were a powerhouse. I actually talked to Tojo a bit, because me and him went up there the same year. And I actually asked, man, and like this was then, like boys didn't like me back then, man. Like I can say it back then. Like I wasn't a good person back then. Like, and I was immature, man. I was very, very immature as a 20-year-old. And I was like, dude, like, what would you do if you were me? And he's like, look, like I've been at the Crusaders. And yeah, it's awesome. They've got a good culture. They win. They weren't winning at the time, but and he was just like, but look, like even I'm heading up to the Chiefs. That wasn't a selling point, but he's like, look, if I were you, I would probably head to the Chiefs as well. And yeah, when I went up and Wayne Smith picked me up, and he was actually the only coach, because I went to all 4 provinces. I didn't go down to the Landers. I went to the Blues, Crusaders, and the Chiefs. Like that's the 3 teams that I sort of narrowed it down to. And Wayne Smith was the only one who said I was shit.
Oh, sorry.
Like not as blunt as that, but he was the only one who was just like, look, like you've got a lot to work on. Like everyone else was telling me I was going to be an All Black if I went to there. And he's literally the All Blacks, one of the All Black selectors, and he was like, mate, you are a long way off. So that was refreshing, and it was probably what I needed, man. And it took me a good year in that Chiefs environment to really grow and really mature. And then after that, man, the world was my oyster. I'd done my best. I'd thrown as many punches as I could, and I was up against pretty stiff competition from the other provinces. Like Rico Ioane was just coming on the scene. Jules was at the height of his powers with Sakinaholo. Like there were so many great wingers, and like I've got no beef with anyone, man. But that was just who I was up against. Like every single time I'd make a 45-man squad, but I'd never make the 33. Like, and that was just it. Yeah. Yeah, that was it.
Mate, crazy. But you made the Maldives a few times. What was those experiences like?
It was awesome, man. It was an eye opener, to say the least, because like, being from Nelson, like my mum's like Māori, she's pretty hearty through and through, but like I wasn't exposed to the cultural side of it as much. Her family's from Tauranga and Matapihi, and the Bay of Islands, but my dad's like, man, he's from a farm like in Motueka, like he's like a little bumpkin, man. But like that was my first real exposure to the culture, and I got in. I think we just lost the Naki as always back then, the Prem final, and I was hungover to bits. But you'd have to recite your pepeha, so literally like your your mountain, your river, your parents, where they come from, who who you represent. And I was hung over to bits, man. And like, it was my first time. I had to like rush it out, and I was so nervous, but it was an amazing cultural experience. There's just something about a team where, when you're all, of the same bloodline, when you're all, representing more than just like New Zealand, you're literally representing, Māori, and it was awesome, man. It was very empowering in a lot of ways, and I left that tour playing good rugby and really intrigued into the Māori culture. And I mean, to my ignorance, I haven't delved very much deeper, but it's something that, like, it's awesome to be able to represent your culture, man. Like, there's something special about that, and that's definitely like having my Māori All Blacks jersey hanging up. That's one of my pride possessions.
And you sort of spoke about missing out on the All Blacks. There's probably 2 or 3 years there where you were right on the frame. You could have been selected, but you weren't. So then when did the decision come to chase the Leinster dream and Irish dream?
Yeah, look, like I've been playing like good rugby. Like I was always in the conversations. I was always getting phone calls by Fozzie and Darren Shand, manager, like all that, like all the time. Wayne Smith was always talking about you're there or thereabouts, and I'd never get the phone call saying I've made it, and it was very, very frustrating. I'd always look for feedback and stuff, and I was pretty much told, look, we're going here, and this is why, you're a winger. We know you're a bit of an all-rounder. You can kick, you can pass, and everything, but we need our wingers to be able to finish. And like, man, like you look at Wasaki, you look at Rico, you look at Jules, like I would have picked them as well over me. Like they didn't need me. They needed, the big bus running over people. They needed Rico to run around people. They needed Wasaki, stepping, fending, gritting his teeth and whacking people. That's what they needed. And I felt like if I'd stayed in New Zealand, I definitely would have become an All Black. That's how I feel. And whether that was 1 cap or 10 caps, I wouldn't have been a 50 test All Black. I wouldn't have been, I would never have reached that. So once I was in negotiations and I was getting a little bit shafted. They didn't think that I was going to leave. They knew that there was always the lure of the black jersey. And then I was like, look, like I'm starting to get offers from overseas, and they were trying to almost a little bit call my bluff. And I was like, no, I'm getting this. Like, this is happening. Like, I'm actually engaging in talks now. I'm on phone calls. These people are selling me the world. And then, like, even my manager, he went to like NZRU and was like, look, like, this is obviously my player. We're seriously thinking about leaving. And they rung him, but like it wasn't any of the coaches, which was a bit annoying. Like, and they didn't call me, and that was a little bit frustrating. Like I can tell you right now, if Wayne Smith and don't get me wrong, actually, like it wasn't Wayne's fault. Wayne had no idea that this was happening. And that actually, I'll tell that very shortly, but like none of the coaches rung me and said, we want you to stay. And if that had happened, I wouldn't have left New Zealand. 100%. There was no way.
Wow.
Like, mate, like imagine like how powerful that was. And then I think it was like a manager or something called my agent and was like, look, they want him to stay. And it was just like, every single one of your coaches have his number. That's what you needed to do. And so I engaged with Leinster, who at the time, I think, and don't quote me on this, but I actually think they were trying to sign Israel Dag.
Oh, yeah.
I think that there was the original plan, but he had problems with his knee and he ended up going to Japan. And I think he actually never got his knee right. And that's why Leinster pulled out. Don't quote me on that. I heard that from a different place. It might be true, might not be. But and then, the stars are aligned and they threw a contract out there. I talked to my parents and I'd signed. But when I had announced it to the Chiefs, because Wayne Smith was part of the All Blacks coaching staff at the time, so he wasn't actually supposed to be in and out of the Chiefs, but he loves rugby too much. And I was sitting down with him that day, and I told Renz, I was like, "Look, I'm going to tell the team in the team meeting that I'm leaving next year." And it was very emotional as well. And Smithy was there, he's just like, mate, how you going? Like all this, he's very, very excited. And I'm like, oh man, like I've just signed to go overseas. And he's like, what? And he's just like, wait, what do you mean? Like all this stuff. And I'm just like, how didn't you know this? Like, and that was a very frustrating thing for me. And then I told the team, and a lot of the boys had heard whispers and all that sort of stuff. And but that was a very emotional time because, you know, like my Everest then had changed from wanting to become an All Black to wanting to be financially stable pretty much and be able to provide for my family. And, you know, with the potential to create generational wealth, which is something that, you know, I never would have been thought I could have been able to achieve playing rugby. And, you know, if I'm not an idiot, I can provide that. And then, you know, my kids will be able to do whatever they want. And that's now on my Everest, you know.
Was a part of it ever to play for Ireland? Was that ever the goal, or was it more about the financial side of things?
At the start, I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. Like I always wanted to play international rugby, and you know, that opportunity is there. I had no idea about Leinster in terms of them being a club or a powerhouse of Europe. I knew they were good. I didn't know they were that good.
Yeah.
You know, and then I got there in the first year, and it was a massive learning curve. And I was just like, jeepers, man, this is actually a lot of fun. I'm really, really enjoying this. And there's an opportunity of playing international rugby at the end of it. And, you know, I might bloody try that. So, yeah, it took me, or even like, like going on a little bit further, like even like when I was announced in the Irish squad and stuff, it was an immense sense of pride and everything, but like, it still took me a year to really figure it out. Like in terms of like, it was another like level up where I needed to then be, you know, a level better at everything I was doing. Like when I made my debut and stuff, like I was good and I was always good. I was still a bit inconsistent, but I knew they needed a left foot. They didn't have a left foot. So they always kind of needed me. And it wasn't until I played really shit against Scotland away in the Six Nations that I got dropped. And then I was like, fuck, now I really need to knuckle down and figure this shit out. So it was just another learning curve for me. And man, it's been a crazy journey, like talking about it and thinking back to it now. But man, it's something I definitely wouldn't change for the world.
Yeah. And what was it like going from Super Rugby into the European style of rugby with Leinster? Was there a massive adjustment there for you?
Yeah. I was always told that Leinster played more of an expansive brand of rugby. So that there was always kind of enticing, I guess. But like it was, it's the main thing is the weather. And then because the weather over here for 8 months of the year is shocking. Like I'm talking, and I know you understand that. So the pitches aren't as good. You go to some places where it looks like a prison. You've got like intimidating small crowds on top of you, throwing beer at you and cursing and why have you got a top knot? Like, yeah, you doing your hair again, number 11. It's just like all this very, very different stuff. So like with that comes a different mindset in terms of how to play rugby and accumulate points through pressure, through kicking, through kick chase, and all that sort of carry on. But yeah, they always, like I've always had a license to be able to like express myself with ball in hand, and they never took that away from me because it's a skill set, you know, like the step, the fend, the offload, working with 9s and 10s, quick passes, the whole basketball pass over the top, playing in behind people. They never wanted to take that away from me, which I was really grateful for, because some teams here stick so much to a system and think the system will break teams when there's not as many freak athletes. There's not as many of, you know, big Fijians running around and stuff like that. So they have to, with what they've got to play that way. But man, we play good rugby in Leinster. And I think Ireland, especially against New Zealand, showed that we can play, you know, pretty tight shapes and break teams down with short passes, playing in behind, offloads. So we're definitely, there's not too much of a change from Super Rugby, I don't think, no.
Yeah, so I know a lot of wingers who have gone over there and then they're straight formed into this kick-chasing winger who just chases kicks and receives high balls. But I guess one of your strengths is your ability to go find the ball. You're constantly around the ball, hands on the ball. For a winger, you get more touches than most. So obviously that side of your game hasn't been affected over there.
Nah, man, like fortunately as well, I'm a left footer, which
Yeah.
actually means I don't have to chase too many kicks. So my 15, Hugo Keenan, so he's the Irish 15 and he's actually the Leinster 15 as well. Man, he hates it, but he's very, very good in the air.
Yeah.
Like he's always chasing the box kicks. Like I'm a lot more in the backfield. But yeah, it's hilarious, man. It's like any sort of exit, I'm like, mate, get out on the wing, mate. You're going to chase the box kick. But yeah, like as a winger, like you can offer so much than just sitting out on the edge and waiting for the ball. And I back my skill set now, my catch and pass and my handling to be able to stand at first receiver from edges and throw passes and work with 10s and be able to communicate to them where spaces. That took me a while to learn, but it was probably because I was a bit greedy as a kid. That's probably where that actually all stems from, Matt. Like literally, like where's the ball? I'm going to the ball.
Yeah.
So fortunately, that young little immature, selfish boy, he's paying off.
Another part of your game that's really noticeable is just the amount of energy you have. You always have a heap of energy on the field. Where does this come from? Is this the ADD side of things?
It could easily be the ADD side, but like fortunately, like it's a trade-off, man. I know if I'm providing energy through that energy, I'm telling them specifically like what they need to do. Like that's the main thing as a winger. You're a communicator, and I know if I don't have to make a tackle, it's because of the energy and specific communication I gave, so everyone else makes tackles. So that there's like the trade-off is just like, well, I can be quiet and have to make tackles, or I can be really loud, tell people what to do, and then I don't have to make tackles. So that there's the big trade-off there, man. But yeah, like I don't know, like I used to be, I still probably am a little bit of an instigator in terms of like cheeky comments, but what I've learned now was I'd never direct them personally at people. It would be like small influential things, cheeky stuff, and I wouldn't be saying it directly to you, but I'd make sure you hear it. That's now what I do. I used to be horrific. Like I used to say some really stupid stuff that I regret massively. But no, now there's a bit of a thought process behind a lot of the shit that I do say.
Oh, mate, we've all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Well, you've got a good Kiwi crew over in Leinster too. You've got good lads like Jamo and staff keeping you company.
Yeah, man, he's awesome, man. He's playing out of his skin as well. I know I can be biased, but like what he's brought to Leinster and Irish rugby is a 9 who doesn't wait for the perfect picture, who's not waiting for everything to be set. He shifts the ball, and some of the times you'll pick it up and take 2 steps, and like the effect of that is our forwards now have to be better decision makers. It's like, shit, he could do something and I need to react. And it's just like this culmination of effect that he's brought to the game. He's sped it up. His pass is immaculate. He's the fittest in the team, like by a country, like not a country mile. All the 9s are very, very fit, but like he's very fit, quick, he's witty. He's a little dog, man. Like, especially like, I'm sure you would have seen it having him on your team, but he's still got that little mongrel in him, man. And it's good to see, man. He's been amazing. Like how he's played in the last year he's the number 1 9 in Ireland by a country mile, if you ask me.
Mate, that's awesome, mate. It's awesome to see him doing so well. Other thing to compare over there is the socials. How have you found the difference between the 2 socials?
New Zealand social. So when I was first there, Joey was running it, and you'd always punish the people who were young, so it was me, who talked too much, which was me, who thought too much of themselves, which was me. So I used to get punished at like courties and stuff, man. And like, man, it was bad. New Zealand courties. But the thing I did do is I just accepted it for what it was. So if they told me to do something, I knew that I'd just do it, because if I fought or if I bit back, it's twice as worse. Then he'll get the crowd on top of you. Then all of a sudden, but over here, it's good over here, man. Like it's definitely a different culture. I'd say like the pub culture over here is a lot more prominent. And like it's a general like Northern Hemisphere thing, because it gets so dark so early. Like I think that's why people, like, it'd be 3:30, it'd be pitch black, and people would be like, we'll knock off work early and we'll go to the pub, won't we? Like, or they'll go for a pint at lunch, read the paper with it's crazy. But the socials over here, man, like I've been fortunate enough to win, I think, four trophies since I've been here. And man, those are the days of your life, man. Like those are the best, when you see like old dogs like with their tops off, with like literally trophies on their heads. It's like the sun's coming up and like you're thinking about ordering a taxi. They're just like, shit down, you're not going anywhere. Like those are the days, man. Like some of those memories like I have in my head, and I'm sure you've got some, with the shield and like stories you don't want to tell, but man, they're days of your lives. I never really won too much in New Zealand. We won with Tassie. We never won the shield. I never won a Super Rugby title. But yeah, man, like winning trophies at the end of the day, that's like, people can't take that away from you. Like, you can talk as much shit as you want, but I've got a European title. Like you can say I didn't tackle that yet. I don't care. I've still got the trophy and the medal to show for it. Like, man, no, you'll never take that away from me. So it's been amazing over here so far, man. Like, our team is still very, very young with so much potential that it'll be our own fault if we don't win, So man, like the dues are very, very good though. There's stories I shouldn't be telling on here.
Which of your trophies has really stood out?
It was probably the European Cup in my first year, and it stood out for a few reasons. So I didn't realize how big the European Cup was.
Yeah.
For one, I just thought it was another competition, and it's massive. It's huge. It's crazy. It's literally like, think Super Rugby on steroids. Like, that's genuinely what the European Cup is. So in my first year at Leinster, you could only play 2 Aussies or Kiwis. So there was 3 of us.
Yeah.
Jamo, Fards, and myself. And at the time, so Jamo was the reserve 9 at the time. Fards was starting 6, and then I would have been the starting 11. But we had a lot of outside backs who were very, very good. And our third 9 wasn't good. So it was always, when it came to the big games, Fards and Jamo. And I played in the quarter-final of the European Cup against Sarries. And Sarries are very, very good.
Yeah.
They're always really, really good. And I had an absolute blind. I played so well. And I was just like, look, like, there's no way I can't be playing in the semi. And then, like, the coach rang me, and I kind of knew that there was a chance I wouldn't play, because of, like, it was the best thing for the team was for me not to play, because we needed Jamo and we needed Farts. And so I didn't play in the semi or the final, but I played I played a lot of the pool games, and I played awesome in the quarter. And it was I feel like I handled that pretty well. And that's actually what the coaches said. They were like, look, you would be starting here. We want to pick you, but we can't because of the stupid rule. And so it was a unique trophy to win. And I didn't get to play in the final. I was horrendously drunk, on this trip, because it was in Spain.
Yeah, that's right.
So like, we're catching a plane to Spain at 7 a.m. in the morning, and like, it's literally all of the boys who aren't playing, we're all in our suits. We have like all of the management who aren't involved in the match day squad, like literally on a plane, and we're literally pinting at 7 a.m. in the morning. It was like a 3 o'clock kickoff. And we lit up this little bakery that was doing like Estrella on tap, which is like a cheap Spanish beer. But like, it was like in a bakery, and they had a tap, and it was like 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were just like pinting the whole time. And I just remember sprinting onto the field after when we'd won that game, and like, the boy, like, it was an amazing feeling. And I didn't even play, and I just, like, everyone still felt so a part of it. But the worst thing about that in the changing room is that people started pouring champagne all over me, and I was in my suit and I had to travel home. So I had like champagne, beers, everything just thrown at me, because it was just like, it wasn't in a negative way, or they didn't want to have a jab at me. They just wanted me to go home in a drenched suit. So I ended up having to go home and like literally like a different t-shirt, different pants, someone else's shoes and socks and underwear, because people were just pouring pints all over me. But that there definitely stands out, because I felt so a part of it, yet I didn't get to experience it in the final. And Racing were very, very good that day, and it was like 12-9 the final score. But that was definitely my favourite.
Mate, goes to show your growth, because a highlighted game for you is a game that you weren't playing. Going from where you'd been, like that wouldn't have been anywhere near you'd be. It would have been the one you scored the 3 tries and you got all the ball in the final. But it's
and we lost.
It's cool to see that growth where you feel like the biggest game that you've been a part of is one you didn't even play, but the team won. So, mate, huge growth from you.
Yeah, it's a different world now, isn't it? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what this has done, man. Like in terms of rugby, what it's taught me. So, man, I'm very, very grateful for it. And it's definitely the biggest game of my career, the one I didn't play.
Yeah, you're a good kid. Anyway, what's the plans going forward for you? Obviously, the Rugby World Cup. We've got the 3 test series over here in New Zealand for Ireland. You got a few big games coming up for Leinster. So what's the goals going forward?
Yeah. Man, Six Nations is the next big thing. Yes, man. And I was only a part of one, but there was no crowds then. So Six Nations this year will be a real eye-opener to see where we're really at. And man, I don't see any reason as to why we can't put our best foot forward there, man. I know a lot of the Northern Hemisphere teams are playing really, really well at the moment, but we've in previous years, Ireland probably haven't fulfilled their potential, but I think we're taking the right steps and playing right rugby, and everyone's buying into that. So Six Nations, really want to win a European Cup, one that I get to play in. Man, the 3 tests of New Zealand, that there's obviously in the back of my mind. If I'm fortunate enough to tour New Zealand, and then if I'm lucky enough to play in the 3 test matches, man, that's something that will go down as even for my family, man, they've never seen me play a test match live either. So that there would be a huge stepping stone in terms of just for my family, man. That'd be really cool. That's what's on my mind.
And the Rugby World Cup?
It's in the back of the mind, man. I'm all for this eligibility rule, but we have Tonga in our pool. So the thought of having Mala, Nane Lamape, Charles Pietau. Oh man. Yeah, it's I voted in favour of it anyway. So man, the World Cup's gonna be amazing. If I'm still playing good footy and get picked for them, then man, I'll definitely put my best foot forward. It's in France. I know that if we get through our pool, we'll either be playing against the hosts, France or New Zealand. And because I think it's us and Australia, Tonga, and then Scotland are in our pool as well. So we're in literally a very, very tough pool. And then our crossover games with France or New Zealand. So man, that there would be amazing to be a part of. Something I never thought I'd get the chance to experience, but the ball's in my court, and I know if I stay fit and healthy, then I can definitely be there. So man, it's exciting times ahead for you, lad.
And post footy, any plans post footy? I know you own a very good shop in Nelson, Crackerjack Toys, selling toys all over the show in the Nelson region. That's still going strong for you?
Yeah, it is. So my brother does that, man. He's the brains. He's a very, very smart man and saw the opportunity. So we went halves in that. In fairness, I don't do much for it, man. He's the brains, the brawn. He does all that. Post footy, man, that's the $1 million question. I've been fortunate enough to have a mentor over the side of the world. A fellow called Brian Crowley, who is in the private investment pretty much. He works for a company called Broadlake, and pretty much what they do is kind of similar to a Dragon's Den sort of thing, where they have money, they have people who come to them they might already have an established business who are looking to expand. They might have an idea, they don't know how to get it into production, items, they don't know how to sell it, and literally people go to them and are like, look, this is our idea, and then they go forward with how they think that they can bring their idea to life or how they can improve it. And so I'm working with him, and that's something that I think that I would like to, something that I could get involved in, where I'm helping start, like, fortunate enough, what rugby's taught me is that I've seen things from like the top and the bottom. So I'm literally a worker, but I understand the big picture that the coaching's trying to achieve. I look to the future, and that really gives me a good perspective in terms of how I think I can help businesses. So like, and I think that's how my brain is a little bit wired in terms of trying to like help people, but then obviously financially being able to look after it as well. That's what I think. But man, I've got no study under my belt. I don't know what I want to study. And I'm hoping my fiance is a lawyer, so hopefully she can. I'll be a stay-at-home dad, man. That's my plan.
That's living. Exciting times ahead all around. Anyway, we've gone to our Instagram for some questions, and James Lowe, the Irish legend, lots of questions came in for you, lad. Would you say you have a Kiwi or Irish accent?
No, I'm still a Kiwi. I still have a bit of a niche South Dublin twang to it. Talking to Sumo, because he works with Easton Afiwa, who was actually over here. He's an Irish legend. He's a Leinster legend. And he's like, man, you sound like Easter so much. Like you both got this weird twang with your Kiwi accent. But no, I've still got a Kiwi accent. I don't think you'll ever get rid of that from me.
No, fair enough. Okay, next one. Who's the biggest lad in the Irish team? We'll keep it out of the Irish lads.
There's a lot of entertainers. It's so funny, man, because how do I phrase this? Like their humor is a lot different. Yeah. Like their mannerisms and their like banter is a bit different. So they will think I'm like just this big dumb idiot, like when I speak. And I'm just like, mate, you should listen. Like I just don't understand what you guys are talking about half the time. But there's some great lads, man. There's some really, really nice people. Yeah. The people who I get on really well with in the Irish team, and two literally my best friends over here, would be a fellow Jack Conan. So he started 8 for the Lions, for the 3 Lions tests, and another guy, Ed Byrne. So he's a prop for Leinster and Ireland as well. And we're pretty close friends, man. We get on very, very well, and so do our partners. Makes it a bit easier.
Absolute lads. Yeah, that helps. Okay, next one. Yeah. Talk us through the debut intercept try against the Crusaders, a team that you have come out and said that you absolutely hate.
I never said that. It's a love hate. I because they're so good is why I hate them. Yeah, you understand that. Man, that's a few moons ago. As I do remember it, Ben Tamiafuna turned in to try put a shot on, I think, Matt Todd. And Matt Todd flicked it away to Ben Fennell, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ben Fennell threw it on, and it was going to who? I can't remember the winger at the time. But then, I just stuck a hand out. Yeah, I just stuck a hand out and managed to, it was like a deflection, and then I managed to catch it. And fortunately, had the wheels to go the whole way. And it's funny because Michael Ash was on the touchline then. He actually, I remember he was literally there, like running next to me as I was trying to get away from Izzy Dag. Man, yeah, that was a cool moment because I think I gave away a penalty earlier and they went 6 up. So, yeah, that was a nice thing.
What a try it was. Okay, Ireland's chances of winning the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, like the ball's in our court, man. Like I think we've proved to ourselves that we can compete against the best. And like I've never been to a World Cup. I don't understand the pressure. I've only played 3 games in front of crowds in international rugby, and they've all been at home. So for me, I might have this a weird opinion of how international rugby actually is because I've never played away from home. But I don't see why we can't top our pool. Like I don't see why we can't. Like playing against Australia, Tonga, Scotland, and every other team will be thinking that as well. Like those other teams will be like, look, we can top this pool. But man, if we play the way that we know we can play, if we prepare as diligently as we did against the ABs, I don't see why we can't top that pool. The crossover game obviously is going to be very, very tough, whether it's New Zealand or France. And look, like we've proved to ourselves that we can do it, that we can climb to those heights. We're going to have a very, very similar team to what we did, a few months back. Man, we've got everything's there for us, man. And I don't see why we can't. If we put our best foot forward and the other team beats us, fair play. But we're going to go over there and make sure we don't go over there without firing a shot.
Mate, no doubt. Irish to win the World Cup. You've heard it here first. James Lowe.
I see. This is why I don't actually say
it. Okay, next question. Do you still rep the 03?
Yeah, all the time, man. I've still got my Tassie tattoo, my Chiefs tattoo. Man, I always rep the 03, man. Like every time I score a try, it's just a subtle thing. Like I told you, man, I'm a homeboy. I know I've still got a little bit of juice left in the legs to play footy over here, but at the end of the day, I'm probably going to be back in Nelson. There's this nice suburb next to the water in Mapua. There might be a few subdivisions going up there, man. It's who knows? That's where I want to settle, man. I think it's a beautiful part of the world.
Mate, you're going to be my neighbour. Oh, how good's that?
Oh, jeepers. You and Big Moo Coleman.
Oh, living. Okay, next one. Who's the best winger in the world, in your opinion?
Good question, man. There's a lot of good wingers.
There is.
You can't go past Will. Will was playing exceptional at the moment. Over here, over this side of the world, a couple of French wingers. Pinot, he's a right winger.
Very good.
He's the French winger. Teddy Toma, although he's another French winger, plays for Racing.
Yeah.
He's exceptional, man. He is so quick. But then, like, I could rattle off so many, but Cheslin Colby is probably my favourite winger as well. Man, right. I could go on for days. Man, well, it's crazy because all those wingers are exceptional finishers, and I wouldn't like finishing's like not my best. Like, if I was to weirdly rate everything, my finishing's good, but it's nothing on those boys. Like, absolutely nothing. So I kind of envy them in a lot of ways, and that's a good way to be.
Similar question: who's the hardest player to tackle?
Hardest player to tackle? Well, I think a lot of people would say Artie. Like, I was listening to your podcast with him, man. Like, his ability to stand in tackles, to be physical, to not want to go to the floor. He's got a silly dummy that a lot of people fall for. This old thing. But man, like his footwork, his acceleration, his ability to beat the first tackle. He initiates contact a lot of times. Like, you'll think, like trying to lean in for a hit, and all of a sudden he's hitting you. Man, he would be the hardest player to tackle for sure.
Oh, I like that. Okay, two more. What's Johnny Sexton like?
He's an old man. He's the second most expensive 36-year-old in the world after Ronaldo. He's a gentleman, man. Like, probably gets portrayed in a negative way because what you see of him is him giving out or being a grumpy, which he is grumpy. But the thing is that he wants the best for you. I think when he retires, there is going to be a massive void that needs to be filled in Irish rugby. And there's 3 or 4 10s who are putting their hand up, but I still think Sexto is the number 1 10. And he's 36, man, playing the best footy of his life. He's a smart footballer. He's a bit like he's Tom Brady-esque in terms of he knows so much about the opposite team that he'll come to you and be like, oh, did you see the scrum where the winger went one way to drag you, so then they've got a crossfield kick for, like he's that in tuned. He's a very, very good rugby player, and we're going to miss him when he, hopefully he's got another 2 years in him.
Mate, at least, surely. He's a lad. Okay, last question. Best piece of advice you have for our listeners?
Oh, man, you put me on the spot here. Piece of advice, like, don't be afraid of, I guess, like, growth or criticism. Like, surround yourself with good people who always have your best interests at heart, whether that's family members or friends or even just someone you trust, man, who you can go to and have open and honest conversations with, people who are going to give you the feedback that you do need, because sometimes it's hard for you to accept you're in the wrong. And like, even when I think back to me when I was 21, 22, like I see myself then as being very selfish and very close-minded in terms of how I thought and how good I thought I really was. And yeah, surround yourself with good people and don't be afraid of criticism. Like, make sure they've got your best interest at heart, and you'll be flying it.
Mate, I knew you'd come up trumps. Great piece of advice to finish the podcast and to finish season 2 of What a Lad. What a year it's been, and what a way to finish it with one of the great yarns from such a lad, James Lowe. What a journey that was, mate. From going through what you did when you're a young fella to where you are now, it's been an inspiring journey to follow. And mate, I'm super excited to watch you in the future with hopefully back over here playing in these tests, and then hopefully the Rugby World Cup as well, mate. Looking forward to what lies ahead for you. So really appreciate you coming on the podcast, mate. It's been awesome.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you doing so well.
You're a lad.